because the last podcast I had was like this young dude from the Netherlands, and I completely forgot to introduce him and what he did and his website and all this stuff, and it was like a conversation between two entrepreneurs, right? So I was like, man, I got to get better with these introductions with podcasts, but I'm still learning. But how you doing, Q? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. Nothing much is going on at the moment, except, just jumping on this podcast with you.
So are you in Australia right now?
No, so I'm currently in New Zealand, which
Oh, New
is
Zealand. Okay.
is next door neighbor to Australia,
Mm.
if anybody didn't know.
So were you born and raised in New
No,
Zealand,
I,
or
I came to New Zealand at a young age, and I've been here my whole life.
mm. Any plans on on leaving, or?
Yep, so I think I mentioned it to you briefly, but I am actually scheduled to leave in 9 days, no, 8 days. So
Oh, dope.
so I am moving to Australia.
Is it gonna be like for work, family, career? What's the move? What's the move about?
Um, it's something that I had been thinking about for like the longest time. I don't know how familiar you are with New Zealand, um,
Not
but
at
I'm
all.
in the not at all. Okay, so we're basically like an island in the southern hemisphere, below, like next to Australia. It's a it's a pretty small country in the grand scheme of things, like population wise. Um, and I guess, being here my whole life, I always wanted to experience living abroad, but it was never an option until I guess now. So I've
Mm.
kind of decided to, take the plunge and move over to somewhere which is, a lot bigger, but still not too far away, like, halfway across the world. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
that
like a
that's
step,
sort
it's like a
of
step up.
that kind of reminds me of like the relation that we have here in Canada with the United States. It's kind of like we're next door neighbors, and the
Hmm.
US is like our bigger brother. Like when you
Yeah.
look at Canada, it
Hmm.
looks pretty big, right? But
Yeah.
we all live on the south border of Canada. The northern part is uninhabited by people.
Yeah.
So there's like nothing there but trees, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I can resonate with that of going, taking the plunge, going somewhere bigger,
Hmm.
and because there's like more opportunities, and I don't know what you want to do in life, but there's more opportunities when you're willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and not just
That's
settle for what's easy, right?
Yeah, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. That's ultimately like, what I'm trying to do by moving over is to, step outside of my comfort zone, which is to live, here where everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, challenge myself a little bit more, put myself into somewhere like uncomfortable, in hopes that I can grow more. And it's not just about like, more opportunities or that life is better because grass is always greener on the other side, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's just I am quite settled and comfortable here, so yeah, just wanted a bit of a change.
So, so I had a random question where it was like, I was wondering how you even came across my content or my work, because we talked for the first time during my live stream, which is
Yeah,
super cool because I always love meeting new people, but I'm always interested in
yeah,
how you even found me, or how
yeah.
did we cross
So I
paths?
thought about it and I kind of went back on my YouTube history, and the first video I watched from you was the life uniform video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess I could probably tell you like a little bit about myself and how I got there, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Um, so like I mean, I would identify myself as a minimalist of sorts, not like to the extreme or anything like that, but as you can see, I wear like a plain black t-shirt. I have done this for like, most of my adult life. Um, and although like I'm pretty set in terms of like, what I wear and stuff, I still like to just kind of see what other people are doing with their like minimalist capsule wardrobe. And I just kind of watch those videos, from time to time on YouTube. And I
Mm-hmm.
think just, one thing led to another. And then I ended up on that video of yours where you talked about the life uniform. And then I thought, yeah, this is like pretty much like in line with what I think. And I quite like the fact that you talked about the reasoning more than like the clothes itself. And
Okay, I
then
see.
and then I went into like, your videos, and then I watched a few more. And then I thought, yeah, this like really resonates with the kind of mindset that I personally have. And then yeah, kind of just went from there.
That's awesome. Because you know what's cool about me as a creator
Mm,
is whenever I post content, I
yeah,
have no idea who's consuming it. I don't know who's on the other end of that monitor, who's on the
yeah.
other end of the internet connection, or who was on the other end of the screen. So
You just
it
get like a number,
sometimes,
right?
yeah, it's like I just get these analytics. Oh, 27 people watched this today. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's great. How does that even help me, right? And that
Does
that
it
was
tell
sort
you
of
like does it tell you like the age group? Well, probably not, right? Or like demographic.
you can go into that like really in depth, but it's like it's very time consuming. You can go by country, age, gender, like time zone. Like you can go deep into the analytics, but
Okay.
I try not to get lost in that kind of stuff, and I mostly just try to focus on like the message. And the
Yeah.
message is these authentic ideas that bettered my life. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping by sharing them, then someone else can learn from what I've learned and hopefully better their life in the process too, right? So
Yeah.
that's like the general idea. But doubling back, part of the reason why I started doing the live stream was to give the viewers a chance to come and interact with me so I can find out
Yeah.
who they are and
Yeah.
who you are. Because
Mm,
one thing about me is that I'm not afraid of anything. Like I'm not afraid of conversation. I'm not afraid of
yeah.
meeting new people. I'm not afraid of awkward situations. Like
Yeah.
I'm just naturally extremely curious, and I just enjoy other human beings and
Yeah.
conversation, and it, for me that helps me build up my perspective of what like again what you're telling me, like you have the black minimalist t-shirt, so we have the
Yeah.
same probably general ideas about materialism and name
Yeah.
brand clothes, and maybe
Yeah.
more along the lines of saving money and not
Yeah.
wasting on stupid shit to please other people, right?
Yeah.
And
Of
I
course.
love all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. No, definitely. And just being able to speak with you like this kind of reaffirms the kind of persona that you had portrayed on your YouTube channel. And I really like the fact that you are focusing, on the message. And I think, that's what drew me to your channel, basically. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I've watched like plenty of other kind of YouTubers that are touching on similar subjects, but then a lot of them are like, quite big, or I guess at this stage there's a bit more like um, sense of like personal connection,
Like a community.
which I liked. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, because when I stream, there's like four people that
yeah.
come almost every time,
Oh, really?
and
Yeah,
they're
okay.
from like Kosovo, France,
Yeah,
Brazil, like all over the world, right? Like nowhere even close to
yeah,
me, in completely different time zones,
yeah,
and that's type of stuff that I love, right?
yeah.
It's awesome because me and you, we would never have this conversation in a million years because I'm probably going to live
Exactly.
in Canada my entire life, right? So our
Yeah,
paths would never cross without the
mm,
internet, right?
yeah.
And
And it's
that's one
amazing.
less, yeah, and that's one less conversation that I, wouldn't have been able to have, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think it's like absolutely fascinating that, me and you can talk like this, in, live from literally other ends of the planet.
hmm.
Um,
Well, it's good because, in my opinion, nowadays, because we have such access to information, right? It's
mm,
very important, I believe, it is to build your perspective. And it's almost, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but it's almost inexcusable to be ignorant nowadays
yeah.
because you can learn about so many different cultures and so many different people and what their situations are like,
Hmm.
that you can kind of understand them better and not be just ignorant to like what's happening in Ukraine. Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, well, look at the news, look at Google, look at
Yeah.
YouTube. Like you can find all the information of what's going on, and you can gain a better perspective on life. And I think that's what's really valuable for me. And especially as someone that's a father, I have a 2-year-old, and
Hmm.
one more on the way due this July. So I'm gonna have
Yeah.
like a big old family of 4, right? Which
Yeah.
is, for me, it's amazing, right? But at the same time, I need to keep improving. I need to make sure I become a good father, right? That sets
Yeah.
a good example, right? And
Hmm.
also a loving husband at the same time. Like, these things are very important to my character, right?
Yeah.
And I try to be very self-critical, and people tell me that I'm sort of hard on myself, right? Because I'm very ruthless with my self-assessment. I'm always
Okay.
thinking, what can I do better? How can I become a better person? And I'm never satisfied. I'm never satisfied with where I'm at now, and I always want to learn or improve or
Yeah.
better my life in some way, right? If
Yeah.
that makes
You're
any
always
sense.
striving to improve and to better yourself.
Mm.
Obviously, I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I guess you just have to kind of get a balance of when you're being too hard on yourself, but then also like, giving you a bit of room to breathe at times as well.
Hmm. Yeah, because you know what? There's this idea I've been thinking a lot about recently, and it's sort of
Hmm.
driving me nuts. It's this
Okay.
concept of work-life balance, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And my company that I work for and all these other
Hmm.
companies are preaching this idea: have work-life balance. People want to
Hmm.
spend less hours in the office, they want to spend more time at home.
Hmm.
And yes, I get that. But from my uh, from my perspective,
Yeah.
it's so much easier to chill and watch
Mm.
Netflix and spend time with your family. That's an easy decision. That's no
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
The
it's a mindless
difficult
decision.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
difficult decision is the one on the other side that Gary Vaynerchuk preaches of: work hard, discipline,
Hmm.
exercise, go
Hmm.
to bed early, eat good. Like,
Hmm.
those are the extremely difficult positions. And I know that work-life balance is important, but I think a lot of people nowadays use that as an excuse for their procrastination or laziness. And this is
Right.
something that I used to struggle with, right? I go to work, and this is the thing: if you go to a 9 to 5 job,
Hmm.
and you hate what you're doing, where you wake
Hmm.
up and you dread getting into the car and going to work, and you hate every minute when you're at work, and you can't wait until it's 5 p.m. and you just bolt out of there. If that's you and you hate your life, do something about it. And don't
Yeah.
concentrate on this idea of, oh, I need work-life balance, right? Well, do something to better your life to get out of that shitty situation. And I think
Hmm.
it's better to focus on the more difficult things than sort of just to chill. And I know that I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but there's like an idea that I've really been trying to think through in
Hmm.
my mind, because at the same time I'm trying to live a balanced life with my work, my wife, my family, and YouTube.
Hmm.
But I'm not happy with where I am in my current situation within my career and my channel. So shouldn't I do something about it, right? And so this is why I'm always pushing and always
Yeah.
pushing, right? Pushing the
Yeah.
envelope and trying
Yeah.
to excel as far as I can. And I guess other people take that the wrong way, and they just tell me, you need to chill, bro. And well, I'm like, well, I'll chill when I'm successful.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Well, I mean, I feel like, you have every reason to think that the way you do, right? And you have justified that to yourself. So you don't really need to prove it to anybody else that tells you otherwise.
Mm,
Um, I mean, the whole idea of work-life balance can be interpreted in so many different ways, I feel. You might have a good balance of, good work and good life, or, bad work and you're trying to offset the bad times during the 9 to 5 with like rewarding yourself by going out drinking or partying or playing games or, whatever else to justify that you deserve it after like a hard day at work.
mm,
And I mean, I guess inherently there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want, right? If you are happy to, grind the 9 to 5 and then come home, sit down, watch the Netflix or television, have a beer or play games or whatever. I mean, that's your choice. And I'm sure there are plenty of people that are totally okay with it. The fact is that you are not, and like I am also not. So, and that's just who we are, right? But that doesn't mean
mm.
that everybody has to follow that kind of like rule or standard, right?
Yeah, that's true. You know who I think it really applies to is some of my coworkers that I've worked with over the years, where they get a good paying position, right? There's maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's in a position of management or whatever.
Yeah.
And this kills me. They get a work cell phone that they have to take home with them on the weekends.
Yeah.
And that that really hits a nerve with me, because those are the people that I think really need work-life balance, because they're working 7 days a week. They're
Yeah.
connected at the hip 24/7, and that is crazy. That's absolutely crazy, right? And I have a lot of other friends who they do work the 9 to 5, they put in their
Mm-hmm.
40 hours, they go home and they're playing Call of Duty or
Yeah.
Fortnite, and they watch the basketball game, they have a beer, and they're happy, right? And
Yeah.
more power to those people. They figured out what they want to do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I kind of draw the line with all these type of ideas that I talk about, because I'm always preaching this idea of self-improvement, right? Of doing
Yeah.
difficult things because it'll better your life, because that's what's worked for me. And
Yeah.
and it's also hard because there's some people that don't care. They could care less about their weight. They could care less about the food they eat. They're just
Yeah.
happy doing what they do, right? And so
Yeah.
I also have to remind myself that there are people like that too,
Yeah.
where no matter how hard I justify my perspective, it will
Mm-hmm.
never work on those type of people, because they have their own thing going on, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a
Well,
juggling act, this whole thing, right?
well, this they say, like, you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped, right?
Hmm.
But your focus is trying to help the ones that are looking for help, and the ones that do resonate with your message and what's worked for you, and thinking, watching your content, listening to you and thinking, yeah, like, that might work for me. I'm going to give that a go. And that's what's important, rather than trying to do it for like everybody, because it's obviously
Mm-hmm.
not going to work for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like this idea of like one size fits all, or
Yeah.
one solution applies to everybody, right? And we saw this with the pandemic. Like we saw this when, I don't know what it was like in New Zealand, but Canada, it's very progressive here.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like hard on masks and they were hard on vaccines, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're never ever going to have the mass majority of people agree with one thing being forced on them. Like this idea of one size fits all, it's never going to fly, because there's always going to be a percentage of people that push back on
Yeah.
that type of stuff, right?
Yep. Of course.
And I don't know how you guys did over there, but it ended up really bad over here in Canada. We had so many businesses go under. Our economy's like all
Yeah.
messed up, or
Yeah.
like we're not doing we're not doing good at all, to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest right now. And it sucks, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess it's just part of life.
It's definitely part of life. Here hasn't been great either. I think we were pretty well protected in the beginning, being an island, and we shut our borders like pretty early.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like our prime minister was praised for, sorting it all out. But then, eventually with like Omicron and Delta, it did, spread pretty badly, and we are probably at the worst stage now,
Oh
with
really?
like a lot of deaths now, whereas before it was pretty mild. But in saying that, businesses still suffered heaps because of lockdowns. Lots of small, medium businesses went under, a lot of people struggling. Um, but I think, you know, obviously, we can look at the situation and feel bad for ourselves, or, like, oh, what do I do? But then I'm like myself, and I feel like people should try to look at the bright side of it all. And for me, this was a good opportunity to reassess where I am with work, with my life, and trying to see what the future means in terms of like how I'm going to work, or how I'm going to survive if something like this or something, different happens again. And the whole idea of like traditional jobs where you go into, an office, a factory, whatever, versus, working in the digital space or working remotely is, I think, even greater than it ever has been. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that was like a big wake up call as well, to reassess what work means, like how we can work in the future.
Mm-hmm. You know what I really learned about the pandemic? That job security through a corporation doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
It's a myth. as soon as a government can decide what is essential and what is
Mm-hmm.
not essential, all job security goes out the window. And
Yeah.
all that's your left is what is your skill set as a human being, right? And
Yeah.
that's what's important. That's what I really learned. And
Mm-hmm.
this might sound kind of bad, but I kind of flourished in the pandemic because naturally I'm someone that's sort of more introverted, and this
Mm-hmm.
whole lockdown, stay at home type of
Yeah.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it gave me more time to work on my business and my YouTube channel and all this
Yeah.
type of stuff. So it was actually very beneficial for me to build those skills
Mm-hmm.
that I can rely on if something happens in the world and the government deems that my job is useless. But luckily for me, the day job that I have is I work as a courier, and we were transporting the vaccines, right? So like
Okay.
I work
So
at
you're
the
pretty
airport,
busy.
so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm like super busy now, right? Because we're
Mm.
moving the stuff, right? But what if I wasn't a courier? What if
Yeah.
I was a chef, right?
Mm.
What if I worked in a restaurant? What if I had a small mom and pop shop? Then what?
Yeah.
How do I afford my home? And like it gets crazy, right? It gets so crazy, and I feel
Definitely.
so bad. I feel so bad for some people because even at my job, I met this guy. He started I can't remember. I think it was the end of 2020, and he was like 70 years old, like this
Yeah.
old man, and he was like delivering packages like Lululemon and Nike and all this stuff. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? Because me, I just talk to
Yeah.
everyone. I don't care. I don't give a shit, right? How old you are, where you're from. So I started
Mm.
talking to the guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he had an Italian restaurant for 35 years.
Wow.
35 years, and he had to close up. But not
Yeah.
only he had to close up first, and then they let him reopen, but he had to put like plexiglass windows and
Yeah.
shit everywhere and make like the outdoor eating. So he spent all
Yeah.
this money on that, and then they closed him down again, and then
Yeah.
his place went bust, and he's like, I
Yeah.
had to get a job because I lost my business. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, dude. I was like,
Yeah.
now you're delivering Nike shoes to people's homes, and oh
Yeah.
man, it was like a reality check for me.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of similar things have happened here with, business owners that, just went under because of everything that's happened. And as you said, the whole concept of job security where you're working for somebody when they can just kind of turn around and say, hey, we need to let you go because our numbers are not good, then you have no job security. Whereas if you have a specific skill set that can be applied across like, different industries or, job descriptions, then you have more options. And especially if you have something that is more for yourself, then even
Hmm.
better, where you can determine your job security.
Yeah, exactly. And even like for me, if say one day I don't know, like robots come and or all these autonomous vehicles happen and you don't need couriers or whatever, like my day job,
Mm-hmm.
I can work as a videographer. I can work as a video editor, right? I can do client work. I can do freelance work, right? And I can
Yeah.
do all these other things with this like
Mm-hmm.
skill set that I've been building on the side. And I'm like, man, this decision to reinvest in myself is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And
Yeah.
not just short term, but like like thinking long term, like thinking,
Long term.
down the lines, right?
Yeah.
Like all kinds of things can happen, and I'm gonna build these skills that are unique to me that I could always use and be successful somewhere else, right?
Yeah. I guess a lot of people have the problem with insecurities of, leaving the day job or like, the 9 to 5 or the stable income. But for me, there's a big idea of what are you risking now versus potentially risking later.
Hmm.
So yeah, you might risk a bit of security, comfort, luxuries, things that you don't need now. But if you hold on to that now, what are you risking in the future where things could be even more uncertain, where you have no job security, where if your company goes bust or, if there's another pandemic or a crisis. So for me, it's like, so I was saying, I'm not working at the moment. So I decided to leave my job and pursue a similar path of self development, self improvement, and upskilling essentially for myself, because
Hmm.
I was happy to risk the security and the leave the comfort zone of where I am now to grow further and invest in my future essentially.
That's good. Yeah, I have. I made a video like I think it was a couple of years ago about my plan that I have, and I had this plan set up of what exactly I was gonna do to
Yeah,
escape the corporate world. And my idea was I was working 40 hours at my day job, and I was putting in 20 hours into this
yeah,
content creation stuff. And then,
hmm
so if you think about two bar graphs, right?
hmm
In time, I want to shrink the 40 hours at the day job and increase the YouTube one, right?
yeah,
And there is this misconception that the workday ends after 40. Well, no, it doesn't. You can do more than 40 hours. Just because society deems a 40-hour work week as full time, that doesn't
hmm
mean you have to stop at 40, right? So I went
That's right.
past that, right?
Yeah,
And my plan was to bring the 40 down to 30 and then bring the
hmm
YouTube up to 30, right? And
yeah,
slowly invert
yeah,
them.
yeah,
And right now, I'm down to 25 at the day job and 35 at
yeah.
YouTube, and it's getting a lot closer. Like it's getting,
Oh,
I
that's
can I
good,
can
man.
almost feel it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But this is the other option you can do. You don't have to take the immediate leap where you go all in. Like you
yeah,
can still get a part-time job like what I have where you still get benefits and vacation days and and
yeah,
some dental or glasses or whatever you
yeah,
need. Or you can still
yeah.
find jobs like that and
Mm.
maybe slowly over time gradually quit the day job and then find your passion. Like both of those options are viable, and I always feel like people have this incorrect mentality where it's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm all in, or oh, I'm in my day job, I'm all in. Well, there's a
Yeah,
third option. Like all of those options are viable. It's just trying to
yeah.
figure out which is the best one for you,
For
right?
you. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like there's lots of things that we can do, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I guess one mistake that people might have in the way they think is it's not just 40 hours of work though. Like you've got your commute to and from work as well. And
Yes,
depending
yes.
on what kind of work you do, you might have the phone, over the weekend, or you might be still stressing or worrying or doing work outside of those kind of 9 to 5 hours as well. So is it really 40 hours or is it kind of more like 45, 50, 60 hours? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely important to, evaluate or reevaluate, your work and what that means to you in terms of the money that it brings in, but also how much time you put in. Because for me, like the last thing I want to do is trade my time for money. I don't want
Mm.
to, like, if I'm investing my time into something that's not scalable, then ultimately I'm just going to be trading time for money, the whole time that I am working.
Yeah, that's so true. Have you ever heard of that businessman Naval Ravikant?
Yeah, I have heard of them.
Yeah, so that guy, I've built a lot of these ideas that I have. There's
Hmm
sort of these mental models and constructs that I've memorized from
hmm
people that are way smarter than me. Like a
Yeah,
lot of these ideas that I talk about, they're not mine. Like
yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't come up with these groundbreaking ideas, right? I've taken them from these other people and sort of etched them in my mind as ideas to remind myself. And one of the biggest when it comes to trading your time for money is this idea that I read from Naval Ravikant, where when you trade your time for money, when you graph it out on the XY axis,
hmm
it's very straight linear line with very slight slope, and it's just straight. But
yeah.
when you earn with your mind and not with your time, you
hmm
get into this extremely high exponential, I don't know what you call it, curved graph where it's very flat at the beginning, but it explodes over
Yeah,
time. And that's like
yeah,
the best representation of why you should never trade your time for money, because you'll never be free. And
yeah,
people will say, "Oh yeah, but I'm a doctor or I'm a lawyer. Oh, I get $300 an hour." I'm like, "Yeah, you do, but then your lifestyle scales up with that. As soon
yeah,
as you get that $300 an hour, okay, now you need the big house. Now you need the Mercedes, right? Now you need the big yard or the boat or like, and
yeah.
your lifestyle always
Lifestyle
scales up
inflation.
with it. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Lifestyle inflation, right? And these are ideas that are huge, especially for younger people. Like whenever I talk to younger people, like I
yeah,
had people that are like 19, 20, like young kids on my podcast. And I try to
yeah.
tell them like these ideas about time, money, and finance are very, very important for your
I
future.
think it's huge because, yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with what you said, and especially with that whole idea of, trading time for money or using your mind to earn, um, like how Naval has put it. Um, I mean, the whole idea of self-development, self-improvement, it's all kind of just like a regurgitation of the same sort of ideas, just spun in a different way that applies to you, or, you put your own spin on it, or, somehow like, how you related to it. I mean, I've
Hmm.
kind of been looking at it, over the, last few years, and the same kind of themes keep reoccurring, just in a slightly different form.
Mm.
But, the message is pretty clear.
Yeah, yeah. I feel
Um,
like a lot of self improvement YouTubers or motivational speakers, we all have the same basic principles. It's the
yeah.
same general idea, but it's you have 50 different options to choose from. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things you can pick from, whether it's diet or
Hmm.
exercise or having a journal or going for a
Yeah.
walk or meditating.
Yeah.
Like there's a million
There's
things you
so
can
many.
do. Yeah, it's just like it's almost as if you got to pick and choose, right? And then you
I
kind
think
of
you
have to.
definitely, I think you definitely have to pick and choose, because one kind of mistake, or like thing that I faced was you kind of get so consumed by this idea of self-development and self-improvement that you think you are improving by watching these videos and listening to these podcasts like non-stop. You're keeping yourself super busy by always like, listening to podcasts, on the drive to work, on the drive home, watching these YouTubes instead of Netflix, and you're just like, yeah, I'm doing it. But then I think after a certain point I realized you actually have to do it instead of just like watching other people talk about doing it.
Hmm.
And so that was
Hmm.
quite important for me to, make some decisions in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, like another Naval quote comes to mind is like inspiration is fleeting. You have to act on it immediately. And it's
Yeah.
like if you find that YouTuber or motivational speaker who inspires you, that gets you
Mm,
excited,
yeah.
you gotta take that little burst of motivation and go and
Mm,
do something with it. Because the action, and everyone says it's like you have to take massive action. You have to do something, right? You have to
yeah.
put yourself out there, do the difficult thing, and
Mm,
one of the best things is just starting out small but starting
yeah.
out consistent, right? Like a little bit every single day, it compounds into massive amounts of progress, very similar to this idea of compound interest in
Yeah.
finance,
And
right?
investing,
They're
right? Yeah.
very similar, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like in the beginning you make a tiny bit, but if you just keep showing up and keep
Keep
doing it,
going.
the
Yeah.
gains you make are amazing.
Yeah. Over time, it's not a race. I think, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, the slowest is the fastest way to get to where you want to be, or something like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, that's
Yes, slowly is the fastest way to get to where you want to be. I think it was
where
something
you
like
want
that.
to be.
Just slow and
Mm-hmm.
steady, instead of trying to rush
Mm-hmm.
it and then stopping.
Yeah, that's like that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that I notice with people, because even when I started my YouTube channel, you probably don't even notice this or know this because all the videos are private, but I started off as like a fitness channel, and I
Okay.
wanted to be like a personal trainer. I was into
Hmm.
nutrition and
Yeah.
weightlifting, and that was my gateway idea or discipline into the self-improvement world, was lifting weights
Okay.
and building this, I don't know, better physical body or health or whatever you want to call it, right? But
Hmm.
it wasn't until I started working on my physical side that I got into the more mental side of self improvement, where I
Hmm.
started learning, about writing down your goals and keeping a journal, and positive thinking, and
Yeah.
setting out big goals and going after them. And that was like that blew me away. That's what my true love and passion is. I still do enjoy the fitness stuff because I do think it's very important, because you want to maintain a strong and healthy body, because that is the foundation for everything else, right? Because
It
your
goes
health
hand in
is your
hand, right?
building. Yes, exactly, right? So,
Yeah.
and I try to balance those things out. But man,
Mm.
ever since I got into the more mental side of self improvement,
Yeah.
I've been just, I've had motivation every single day for like 3 years. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Great.
It's like nonstop. I wake up and it's all I can think about.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with me.
No, I don't think anything's wrong. Um,
uh, could
no,
be. You
that's
never know.
that's yeah, of course. I don't know for sure, but I mean, I guess we're kind of, on similar journeys, right? Where we are both on the road to self-improvement. One thing that, was really great for me to have found your channel was that although I had looked at, all kinds of different like motivational speakers and YouTubers and podcasters and everything before, none of them and I knew all of these ideas, I kind of knew them, I like practiced some of them on and off, but then I don't know why, but you kind of made me want to take like the real first step. And that's kind of why I decided to message you, reach out, and jump on this podcast, because this is definitely like way outside of my comfort zone. I've never done anything
That's
like this
good.
before.
That's good, man.
And
That's
like,
good.
I remember you said like, people say they will come and then they do a no show, and I was like, I might do that as well, but then I'm just like, no, I have to commit. I need to do it, and then so here I am. Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason I felt like I could take that first step, and this is what it is for me, this podcast.
Yeah, the podcast thing, it's been extremely difficult for me. It's one of like the more harder parts of my business that I've like just constant struggles and rejections and no shows and ghosting. Like it's crazy. It's almost disheartening at times. But if you look back to the very first episode of my podcast, is I had a guest and they ghosted me 10 minutes before it was supposed to start, not ghosted me. They canceled on me. Like 10 minutes before I was supposed to start. And at the time I didn't have an office, a studio, a desk, like something was going on in my life where I didn't have a proper setup. I was in my bedroom with my camera beside my wife's vanity, which is like her, like does makeup. It's like a table with a mirror and makeup. Like that's what I was doing the podcast on, because I was so desperate to start, and I just wanted to start, because I know deep down from everything I've read from all these, top entrepreneurs and billionaires and successful people, is that you just have to start, right, and get that ball rolling. And so I named the podcast Just Start, and I said, fuck this, I'm gonna just do the episode by myself. I'm tired of like these excuses and roadblocks that's preventing me from starting this thing that I want to do. So I just hit record, and I talked for maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes or something, and it's probably the worst podcast in history. It's awful, right? But if I never took that initiative to just start, then I never would have got to where we are now at episode 32.
No, I love
right?
that.
And that is huge, right? That's so
I
huge.
love that, like just start. And, that was, I totally feel that, because that's what I'm trying to do as well, just to take that first step. Because if I think about like what this means in the grand the grand scheme of things, it's too much. It can be overwhelming, and you get like all your insecurities and worries just come flooding in. But it wasn't too difficult for me to just say I'll do it, and then just turn on my laptop and just sit here and talk with you. It's not too difficult if I think about it as just like one little thing. But if I think about like what this means, or like what am I going to do, it's going to be very daunting. And I might want to just not do it in the end.
Yeah, that's probably why so many people kind of like quit, or they
well,
don't show.
If anybody
that's
is
probably exactly
watching,
why.
Yeah, if anybody watching is wanting to do a podcast but scared, just gotta do it. It's not that bad.
You know what's crazy? I saw this unbelievable statistic once, and I posted on my Instagram, and I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but it was something like, if you start a podcast and you can make it to like episode 21, you're in the top 1 percentile of the entire world.
Wow.
of podcasting, because 99% don't get past episode 20.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. Like, for whatever reason, that number, it like kind of blew me away. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
20? That's nothing. Like 20? That seems like so little, right? So getting to 21 episodes is the top 1% in the entire world. So when you think about that, and you think about all the insecurities that people have, like you said, all these fears of failure and embarrassment and looking stupid, that holds back so many people that could have grown into something amazing, right?
I mean, it just goes to show that there are so many people like feeling and going through the same things, the same feelings, the same insecurities, the same worries and stresses. And that also means that there are so many people that will benefit from, your help or your words, your advice, your sharing your life experiences. That, yeah, I really believe that there are so many people out there that would resonate with, a certain person's message. And it takes, maybe just 20 podcast episodes to start being able to reach those people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Like
it
if you
sucks.
stopped at five podcasts, then I maybe wouldn't have found you,
Yeah, exactly. I never would have
Mm,
got there.
yeah.
That's funny. You know what? You know what I like to tell people, um, from time to time is I get these strange comments where like people will compliment me,
Hmm.
especially in the real world, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're so lucky you have this like um, extroverted, super happy, personality," and I'm like, That's not
That's
that's not
not
how
me.
I was." No,
Yeah.
like
Oh.
when I was a kid, I was unbelievably shy,
Hmm.
scared, introverted, and afraid, like afraid to just speak to anybody. I'd be
Right.
so scared to order a Happy Meal from McDonald's when I was a kid. I was so scared to ask someone working at Walmart, where the video game section is. Like, I was someone that had extreme levels of shyness, insecurities. I was always afraid of like what my friends would think about me when I got a haircut, and I was always
Yeah.
scared of looking stupid and not having, the coolest clothes. Like, these are things that I struggled greatly with for most of my, early life and teenage years. But
Hmm.
these are things that, just like a skill, you can work on them.
Oh,
These aren't these
definitely.
predetermined attributes where you're stuck with them for the rest of your life. Like, sure, if you have a scale of shyness, like I would say, I don't know, out of 100, and I'm probably like at a 5, like I'm at the bottom, right? But you
Hmm.
can still work on that attribute and build on
Yeah.
it over time. Now,
Mm.
I'll probably never be like that Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon's,
Yeah.
super beautiful extroverted
Yeah.
personality, right?
Yeah.
But I've worked on it, and I feel
Hmm.
like that's something that you can improve and get better at.
Yeah.
And I tell people that you can't have these limiting beliefs of who you are now is not who you will be in the future. You can
Yeah.
change. You can change who you are. Happiness is a choice, right?
Yeah.
Being more confident. You can work on that. That can be a choice if you just put the time, energy, and effort into it.
Hmm.
And it does sound kind of asshole-ish or condescending, like I'm talking down to people, but like these are things. If you can make the right decisions, you can really change who you are if you want to better your life. And part of that, it sort of bled into fitness, and this is where my whole self-confidence exploded. Was when I went into the gym, I was always scared of like people laughing at me because I was really weak, because I was skinny, I was scrawny, and just super weak, right? And from working out for, I don't know, like the first 3 years, I noticed that everyone in the gym, they're just looking at themselves. No one
Yeah.
cares what
No one cares,
anyone
right?
else is doing. That's why there's mirrors everywhere. Everyone is just so self-absorbed, and they only care about themselves. And I
Hmm.
was like, no one's even looking at me. Why am I so insecure about what I'm doing or how I look, or like, who gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
And that's when like the light bulb kind of
Mm.
thing went off in my mind, where I don't have to be scared and timid and shy and worry about what other people think of me, because it doesn't matter. Most people are so preoccupied with their own problems that no one's looking at me, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like you can overcome that barrier if you kind of apply some of these ideas and mentalities to your everyday life, right?
Yeah. I mean, just with that, what you said about the gym and the mirrors and people looking at themselves, like you should really only care about yourself. And if you put it another way, you should be focusing on yourself more than anything else, right? That's what's
Mm-hmm.
most important. You're there for yourself, not for anybody else. You don't go to the gym so someone else can get fit, like doesn't make sense. Um, what you said before about, changing personalities or changing those kinds of attributes and like, skilling up those aspects of your personality. There's one kind of distinction that I made like many years ago is I think that there is a difference between like personality and behavior. So I think that personality is almost something that you are born with, something intrinsic to who you are. But behavior is a choice, and you can choose to be more confident or act more confident. Um, so I am also an introvert by personality, but through putting myself out there, socializing, different kinds of work, I was able to increase my confidence, being able to talk to strangers. And so that's, I was able to balance that out. So instead of being shy all the time, I could actually talk to strangers. So I made that distinction between personality and behavior. And I think that's really helped me to stop thinking in terms of like, oh, I can't do that. That's not me. I do have a
Mm,
choice.
I like that. Personality and behavior.
Yeah,
Yeah, because like your behavior, it's based on action, right? It's based
correct.
on like what
It's
you
a
do.
choice. Like you can determine and work on your behaviors. And personality might be something that you're born with, and I mean maybe that could change as well over time, and based on environment and whatever. But behavior you can definitely change. Like you have a choice to react a certain way, or to to speak a certain way, or I mean I suppose like personality, a certain type of personality might limit you from being able to do these things, but it's something that you can, if you believe you can change, and you believe that it is something you can work on, then I think that you can get there over time with effort. And yeah,
I love that. See, this is why I like podcasts, man, and conversations. I learn stuff every day. Personality and behavior. That's a good one. I like that. Because it's like you can make a distinction between the two where you can
yeah.
control one of them with your
Because
choices.
if I said you need, if somebody came up to me and said like, "Oh, your personality is no good. Like you need to change that," I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? I can't do that. Like that's me. But it's like if somebody, if like a friend just said like, maybe you could, talk in this way or react in this way, or change your behavior a little bit, that might be better. And that's something that I could do without feeling like personally attacked.
Mm. Yeah, that's a tough one too. Is the people take shit so personal.
Mm,
That's like another rough one to to go down.
yeah, I think one idea that really was important for me is one of the ideas of Stoicism. So, there are things that are in your control and there are things that are outside of your control, right? So
hmm
you can change your behavior. I think that's something within your control. You
Yeah,
can
the
choose
whole
to like react to an unwelcome situation in a good way or a bad way.
yeah, it's like again, it's like kind of like your perspective, right? I've
Hmm.
I'm very new to the stoicism stuff. I recently bought a book. I'm
Hmm.
looking at it right now. I bought
Yep.
Meditations.
Yep.
Um, it's hard to read, man. It's
Mm.
one of the most difficult books. For whatever reason, my brain can't digest it well. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know if it's how it's written. It's so
Mm.
broken and not.
Yep.
It's
There's
because it's like
definitely
his
some.
diary, right?
Yeah. I think that's kind of, yeah. It's pretty common in a lot of different books. There are definitely some books that are easier to read than others. Especially kind of the ones that are more like storytelling seems to be easier, whereas the ones that keep like talking about different ideas tend to be a bit harder.
Hmm.
Um,
I see.
I used to think that, reading a lot of books is super important and that's how I'm going to like better myself. But I realized for me, what worked better was like reading like one section or like one chapter of a book and then thinking about it more, and like really like, and I might even read it again and again to really digest that core information, because otherwise you just go through like this whole book and get like this overload of ideas, and then after you're done you finish the book great, but then nothing's really changed because you haven't really like absorbed it and like figured out how to apply it into your life. Whereas if you kind of just
Mm.
focus on one part of it, one section that resonates with you, then you can kind of use it more to your advantage. Like so,
That's
like
true.
there's no like there's I mean there is like a sense of accomplishment when you finish a book, especially if it's like a big book, right? but then like if you're not putting it to use, what's the point? You've just read a book, nothing's really changed.
Yeah, it's like a vanity metric. You're just signaling, oh, look
Correct.
at me, I read a book. Look
Yeah.
at like, you want your participation award or something for
Yeah.
just reading something. You know what really works for me, or this is what I've been doing, is I have a list where I'm trying to find the best 100 books, and right now I think I'm at 9 or 11. Like I can see them
Okay.
from where I am right now,
Yeah.
and I want to find the best 100 books and read them over and over and over and over again until I fully absorb every
Mm-hmm.
single idea from them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what I did was I was into personal finance for a while, and I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for what's a modern book and what's a really really old book, but that still
Right.
kind of holds up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a whole bunch of not bought books. I was going through, what I do is I go through a bunch of ebooks and audiobooks
Yep.
really fast, right? Really quick, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find what sticks. And I found this book by this guy Morgan Housel called The Psychology of Money, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't talk about savings or stocks or investments. All it talked about is your brain and why we want money and how much is enough. And
Right.
this was like a personal finance book that blew me away. So I added that book to my list of the top 100. And then I read this other book called The Richest Man in Babylon, which is
Yeah.
super dated. Like the
Mm-hmm.
currency in the book is gold and silver and coppers or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so dated, but the ideas in that book hold up. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to build this like personal library where I can fully digest those books. And like The Psychology of Money, I've read it 4 times now, I think. Four or
Okay.
5 times. Like, and what I do is I have the ebook, the physical book, and the audiobook. So I get all 3 copies. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to have 300 copies of these best
Yeah.
100 books and just fully consume
Mm-hmm.
all the ideas. And that's sort of like where my knowledge kind of stems from, because I used to be someone that thought, oh, I got to read a lot of books. By quantity makes you smart and improve. But I
Mm.
was just reading for the sake of reading, and I wasn't learning anything, and I wasn't
Yeah.
applying any of that knowledge. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Right?
Yeah.
Like, which is exactly what you said.
Mm. So would you say that you're able to like apply that to your, financial decision making and your life?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the biggest, like life changing for me was this idea of enough. The word
Mm.
enough.
Mm.
Like you never hear the word enough in finance. You hear 401ks, Roth IRAs, tax-free savings, investment
Mm-hmm.
stocks, like all this shit, index funds.
Mm.
Okay, great. But there's this one simple idea is, what do you want with money? Where do you want to get to? And what is amount that is enough so that you'll
Yeah.
be done? And so this kind of relates back to the whole goal setting and journaling, where I'm big on setting goals, and
Yep.
setting goals that you can work towards and having one overarching goal. And
Yeah.
for me, for money, is the reason why I work and save money is I just want a house for my family that has
Mm-hmm.
a studio for doing the work that I love. And
Mm-hmm.
that's it. That's my
That's it.
enough. I don't care about a boat, a yacht, designer clothes, like
Yeah.
fast cars, Xbox. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. That
Yeah.
my enough is just getting a house for my family and a studio. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been my biggest goal in my life. And this is probably like a spoiler, but I got it last
Yeah.
week. So we
Nice.
just purchased.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. We
Yeah.
just
No,
purchased.
it's huge, right?
Yeah, it's like a big thing. It's a big deal for me because
Of
this house
course.
that I'm in, it's sold. It's done,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm finally getting to this place of being happy and having enough. And then now, I I don't have to worry about money anymore, because I'm not gonna be wanting to get, like, maybe my laptop dies. Okay, and then maybe
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a laptop, or this mic blows up. Okay, sure. Then
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna need funds to do that. But just knowing what is enough for you, what is the end goal, and just working towards that is one of the biggest things in finance, man. And it's like changed my life.
Yeah. I think that's great to have those like kind of set goals and as well as like overarching goals because without it you don't know which direction you're going. You're kind of mindlessly wandering through life without a sense of direction or purpose, right? And that's
Hmm.
I think that's really important. And I guess like setting goals in the beginning is pretty hard unless you know what you want and you've obviously kind of gone through the process and exercise of figuring out this is enough for me and being able to stick with it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know exactly what I want nowadays. Like everything is it's pretty simple for me. Like I have a business goal and that's 1 million subscribers. Even though like the number is like the number doesn't matter. There's nothing special about a million
No,
subscribers. But
it's
what
yeah.
it does is if my goal is 1 million subscribers, right?
Hmm.
That means I have to be a content creator that puts out videos and work that's worth 1 million subscribers, right? So
Yeah.
I gotta have shorts, I gotta have regular videos, long videos, I
Hmm.
gotta have podcast. Like if my goal is 1,000 subscribers, I can just half-ass it, get my
Yeah.
phone out, maybe record here and there. Like
Mm.
yeah, then you'll hit 1,000 subscribers. But if you have the
Yeah.
big goal, right,
Yeah.
and reach for the
Well,
big,
you're supposed to set goals like higher than
yes,
like,
exactly.
you know, because then you
But
keep
no one
working
does that.
towards it.
No one's willing to make the unrealistic goals, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to set that kind of like million, but then have you got like kind of like milestone goals and like kind of step by step to tell you that you are getting there? Like the kind of like
Um,
smaller goals, like because
in the
the rule
beginning,
with like goal setting, you got to have it like time specific and all that kind of stuff.
in the beginning, I did. I had this is more because I wasn't very skilled. I had goals of like learning sound design, learning Adobe
Right.
Premiere, Adobe
Yep.
After Effects, right? Learning thumbnail. Like I had all these mini goals for things that I kind of wanted to learn a level of proficiency. So
Hmm.
that was very important for me because you can't reach 1 million subscribers if you don't know how to make a thumbnail, right?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty
Pretty
simple. So
hard.
I had at the beginning I had a lot of very tiny goals that would
Hmm.
motivate me to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
But now I'm focused more on like big big picture long term. Like for this podcast, my goal was for the podcast not to grow until I'm 5 years in. I wanted to take this podcast as sort of like a university degree plus one, where I'm going
Okay.
in with the expectation to put in the work for 5 years and expect zero growth. I
Hmm.
don't try to push for subscribers. I don't try to push for views. I don't care. Like I'm thinking down the line, 2025, maybe then it will grow. And I'm just focused on doing the best possible job that I can. Like that's my specific goal for the
Yeah.
podcast. And I have these big goals for all the things that I do in life.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a good goal, but that's just what I do. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean,
It seems like
I don't think there's anything like I don't think there's like a wrong way to set goals, right? As long as you're
Mhm.
doing something, it's better than nothing. And you have to learn to be adaptable and, make tweaks and changes as necessary as you go, because things, situations change.
Mhm. So let me ask you this: what's your overarching goal in life or in your career, or like what's your goals that you want to achieve in the world?
Hmm. So what I have been doing for like the last kind of 3 years is setting like kind of got like a goal or more like a motto. I've been setting like life mottos that I want to follow for that year. And that kind of determines and like gives me background in terms of how I make decisions and the things that I do. So, for example, in 2020, my like life motto was acceptance and perspective. So I wanted to be
Mm.
able to be more accepting and have a wider perspective on people, situations, different matters, with work, whatever. And I just use that for everything. Like, so if I ever I had a thought, I would say, yep, this is my motto. Like I need to be able to be more accepting of other people's situations and be able to have an open perspective on, on it.
Mm,
And
that's
then
a good one.
2021 was kind of similar, but open-mindedness and empathy. So just being more open-minded to, different situations again, and then being more empathetic with other people. Because I felt like once I kind of like, I think I had a moment where I was very set on my ways and my way of thinking that I would kind of push it to my friends and not appreciate their point of view as much. So I wanted to
Mm.
like kind of step back and be more of a listener type rather than trying to preach my thoughts because I thought, oh, this is the best thing. And I think that was kind of quite important for me to take a step back and also listen and hear out what other people are thinking.
Wow, that's very wise. I like that. Especially like the being more empathetic and having
Mm,
perspective, because those are different. Like it's easy to say those things,
mm,
but it's extremely hard to do. Like
to
those are
do.
very, very difficult things to actually do, to put into action and work on. Because I've
Yeah.
had maybe not as like robust way of going about doing it that you have, but I've thought about that too. Like I believe perspective, and other people's opinions is important. And one thing that I really try to work on is like being a better listener, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm someone I have this like hyperactive energy, like I'm always going and doing stuff,
Mm,
but like sometimes I gotta like stop and listen, right, and take a moment and listen to what other people are saying and try not to always be the loud mouth that's like talking about all kinds of crazy shit that I'm doing, right? So it's like again like having perspective and thinking about these things. And you seem like a very interesting dude because a lot of people don't think this way, right? A lot of people have, like you said, you have a motto. I've never really heard of that before. I've always heard of people like,
yeah.
oh, I want to make 6 figures this year.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to get this car. Like they're
Yeah.
very simplistic with the way they
Mm.
set goals. But I like how you have a motto for the year and you kind of strive to achieve that goal. I find that interesting.
It's more like a, a motto to support the way I make decisions in everyday life, I guess. Um, and if I'm feeling stuck or a bit lost, it kind of helps me guide my way through those situations. So, like, I can give you an example. The reason why I set the 2020, the first motto of acceptance and perspective is I used to always argue with my father. Like, we're just totally different people, right? And I'm sure so many people could relate, whether it's your, dad, mom, brother, sister, whatever, like friends, colleagues, whatever, right? And for the longest time, I had trouble getting along with him because he would never understand me, or at least that's what I thought. But then I realized that, hey, I'm not really understanding him either. Like I'm getting all like caught up in this, getting stressed out about him not listening to me, but then I wasn't really listening to him either. So I felt unaccepted, but I wasn't accepting who he was either. So it kind of goes both ways. And just yeah, and this way of thinking, it's really hard to kind of put it into words, but this helped me tremendously in just accepting other people for who they are without putting my like prejudice or preconception onto them. And that was like huge for me.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to the not meeting eye to eye with
Mm,
their parents. I had a period like that where it was bad. Like
yeah.
my mom has like 5 brothers and they're all
Mm,
computer engineers,
yeah.
and I'm the oldest out of all of like my cousins, of all the grandchildren. Like I'm the
Hmm.
oldest, right? And I was
Hmm.
supposed to be the one that sets the example and goes to university and gets an engineering degree like everyone else in our family. I was very strong mathematically in school in
Mm-hmm.
the sciences and all that type of stuff. So it was almost meant to be, right? And they had like jobs lined up for me.
Yeah. You're
And
supposed to be
uh,
this like example for everybody else to follow. That would have been a
yeah, and
huge
then
pressure, man. That would have been a huge weight on your shoulders as a young guy.
yeah, it's hard because like I dropped out and my mom cried. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was hard because it was like the day where like I really disappointed her.
Mm,
It's like I'm the eldest son. I have a younger brother, right? And it's like I have all these other cousins and they're all younger, and I was supposed to be the one, to set
hmm.
the example and lead the way. And then I became this like crazy off the wall person that's into like all this creative entrepreneurial
Yeah.
weird meditation, cold shower and voodoo, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like our
Yeah.
parents were like, what the hell are you doing? You're like
Yeah.
wasting your
They don't
life,
quite
right?
understand, right?
Yes,
But
they
they're
don't
working on a
understand.
different metric. They're working on a different metric where, you got to be a doctor, lawyer, or, whatever to be
Hmm.
to have like made it, you know. But
Yeah,
society has
it's
changed so
tough.
much.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
for
world that
sure,
we live in has
100%.
changed so much. Like these jobs might not exist in a few years' time, or in a decade or so, and new jobs that we've never even like thought of or heard of will be popping up.
Mm. Yeah, like I posted a YouTube short today talking about why I believe college is useless. And it's a little bit triggering, I guess. I think
Yeah.
I lost like 7 subscribers today, I think, which like again, it's like I kind of saw that. I sort of laughed
Yeah.
because like I've kind of reached a point of maturity where I don't care as much about the metrics. Before they used to drive me crazy. I would
Yeah.
like if I lost 7 subscribers 2 years ago, I'd have like a mental breakdown. I thought my career would be over.
Yeah.
But now it's just it's all right. It's what it is, right? And I
Yeah.
can kind of enjoy it and laugh at it.
Mm.
And it's like I have this very strong belief about post-secondary education and college degrees and universities
Mm.
because I believe they're becoming obsolete. And
Yeah.
the speed at which our world changes is incredible because I heard this amazing idea again from like my mentor Naval Ravikant, where he said, if you can become a perpetual learner and become someone that is adept at picking up new things or trying new trends or new technologies and just practicing them and trying to get better at them, if you can learn a new skill in a new market or whatever, like a new TikTok or an NFTs or crypto, like
Hmm.
whatever new that comes up,
Yeah.
if you can become an expert in 9 to 12 months, you'll become infinitely more successful than someone who studied that degree like 5, 10, whatever, 20 years ago for that 4 year
Hmm.
period. And he's like,
Yeah.
and he's preaching this idea of become a perpetual learner and adapt because the world changes so rapidly. Like
Hmm.
everything is going to be completely different in the blink of an
Yeah.
eye. And
Yeah.
even though I'm very bullish on YouTube, like I'm very bullish on YouTube and Google and them being
Hmm.
like the dominant social media platform, but TikTok is there, Instagram is there. There's probably another platform coming out in the near future that
Yep.
we don't know anything about. So I'm trying to adopt this identity of being a perpetual learner and just
Yeah.
reminding myself, just start. So when the next thing comes out, just start. When NFTs come out, get into it. When crypto comes out, get into it. Or whatever that brand new idea is that might sound strange or weird, I'm going to try to immerse myself in that, become an expert in the 9 to 12 months. And that's how you can find massive success in the future of technology, which
Yeah.
super super interesting. But
Oh,
again, this wasn't
definitely
possible in
interesting.
our parents era, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, it was absolutely expected that you go to school, finish high school, go to university, get a degree, leave school, get a job, work on your, grind and work on your career, and then advance to like the top position, and then you're done. Like you've completed life, essentially. But yeah, I feel exactly the same way about university education. I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
You know what else drives me nuts? It's like I pose like I when someone like really annoys me and I want to be like an asshole, I bring up this idea that I've really thought about, and then I pose this question to them where they argue with me about university. I'm okay, that's fine. I understand your perspective, but compare these two ideas. you go to university for 4 years, get a bachelor's degree. You could
Mm-hmm.
spend 40, 50, 60, or even $100,000 on
Mm-hmm.
that education for that 4-year program. I'm like, why don't you start a business with your cell phone that you have in your pocket and create a YouTube channel and work on it, or an Instagram channel, or a fucking YouTube page, whatever, or a TikTok
Mm-hmm.
page. Work on that for the same period of time, 4 years, and
Mm-hmm.
your initial investment is zero instead of $100,000, right?
Yeah.
Why is that not a viable option too with going to
Mm.
university? Why is that frowned upon? When you think about the initial risk and investment, it's nothing because we all have phones. Like you can like I've talked to kids, sorry, not kids, like 20-year-olds, right?
Mm-hmm.
That make 20, 30, $40,000 a month off social
Mm.
media, and all they use is their phone. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, it blows
Yeah.
my
It's
mind. I'm like,
mind-boggling, eh? Yeah.
yeah, I can't even comprehend that. And if you think about like the initial cost of investment, it's nothing because you already have a phone, right? Like, how come
Mm.
that's not a viable option too for younger people? Whereas like the university, like, you got to have books, right? Tuition,
Mm.
and
Mm.
travel, and maybe if you stay on residence and the dorm, and you have like a food card, like, oh my god, it becomes so expensive, right? And what if that
Yeah.
program you study, you don't even use it,
Yeah.
right? So like,
Well,
there's so many what ifs, right? That's what drives me
mm.
nuts.
the, yeah. I've also got like it's funny because like I have a very strong opinion about university education as well, and I reckon we're probably not too different in this way of thinking. Um, did you finish university? Did you
No, I dropped out second year.
you dropped out second year? So
I was
obviously you're obviously not using it now.
Yeah, it was like computer engineering or computer
Mm,
science or something like
yeah.
that.
So I did graduate university. Do you have any idea what I graduated
um,
in?
hmm. Well, to be like prejudiced, most like if your parents are Asian, they're
Yeah.
probably like sciences, like mechanical engineering or biology or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So no. Um, you would probably laugh. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy.
Oh, that's wicked. I love
Yeah.
that. That's
Um,
amazing. Your
but
parents
it's
must have been raged.
they were not happy about it. But
Oh
so
my.
it's quite funny because I started off university with the law degree. I went in with
Oh
studying
wow.
law because that was what my parents wanted me to be. They wanted me to be a lawyer. Um, but I quickly realized after the first year I didn't enjoy it at all, and this is like not what I wanted to do. So I changed to philosophy, which is something that I was interested in, and also it was only a 3 year course, like 3 years to graduation. So it was like the shortest, like cheapest way to graduate. And I told my parents, I'll graduate with the degree in the shortest amount of time possible in something that I actually like because I know I'm not going to ever use my degree in my future like working life. And somehow, I don't know how, but I managed to convince them. They said, okay. So I just went to university. I almost didn't go to any classes and I just worked and I self-studied and like off times and then I just graduated like that. And yeah,
Wow.
and I don't use my degree for and I never use my degree to do for a job. I'm not. I mean, obviously, there's not much you can do with a philosophy degree anyway. Um, but yeah, I did totally different work after that.
Wow, that's so cool.
Um,
Man, if that I like that.
the point I wanted to make was I think university is great and absolutely necessary if you know what you want. Like if you want to be a lawyer, you don't have a choice. You have to go. Like if you want to be a
Yeah,
doctor,
the
you have to
bar.
go. If that's what you want, right? But if you don't know what you want, do something like fun. Like do something that interests you or like because the university is a place to learn how to learn. That's what I think.
Learn how to learn.
like, so for me, like learning philosophy, of course, I was learning about all these fantastic philosophers and, reading a bunch of books and stuff. But I was really there, like learning how to absorb and process information, and I could apply that to anything, right? Whereas
Mm.
if I did something very specific, then I would have been limited to that. Although, I mean, you still learn how to learn. But yeah, so that was my decision to do something that interested me, and because I knew I was never going to use it.
Wow. That's wild, man. That's so crazy. But if you don't mind me asking, what's your background? Are you like Chinese or like what's
I'm
your
Korean.
Korean? Oh man,
Yeah,
that's even I know what Korean parents are like.
yeah,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
dude.
Well, it definitely wasn't easy. I mean, like, they fully wanted me to be a lawyer. They like had this whole idea, like they're just like, yep, you do your law in New Zealand, gonna send you
Mm-hmm.
to like this to the same. Like, I'm not privileged or anything. Like my parents are not well off. We struggled a lot, after moving to New Zealand. We basically moved here because of like the financial crisis in Korea. Um, and we were
Ah.
basically here like starting from scratch. So I think that's why they also wanted me to do something like stable, and that's all they know, right? Like our parents'
Mm,
generations, they only know like lawyer, doctor, engineer.
mm-hmm.
So they had these like high expectations, but I kind of proved them that like this is not me. That's not what I want.
Wow, that must have been a tough sell because like this is something also that people don't know. Like if you don't have Asian parents, then you also can't really understand the dynamic of
Yeah,
how much it means to them for their kids to get a university education in like the maths or the hard sciences. Not just because those they think that those fields are good, but there's also like this weird, I don't know what you call it, like a social
competition.
status. Yeah, with like
There's like
within your
this,
family, and
and your
it's
like friends and family and relatives, like, oh, my son is a doctor or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like because I have that
absolutely.
in I have that in my family because my mom is Japanese, right? So I have that like which is all my uncles are, they're all those computer engineers, right? So like
Hmm.
I understand like that dynamic where that Asian parents have this almost unreasonable pressure of expectation where they want you to study what they want and what they think
Yeah,
is successful
yeah.
instead of
They know what's best for you, but they
yeah
don't.
it's
But then they don't listen. They don't listen to you. They don't actually give a fuck. Like, care what what interests you. They're basically trying to get their children to live by their standards and what they think, rather than actually
mm,
seeing like what are they interested in, like what do they even like.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
man,
it's a
like
huge problem. It's like a whole
yeah.
another like can of worms to talk about.
Koreans take it to the next level too because Korean people are some like the hardest working people I've ever met. Holy shit, you guys go at it, dude.
Um,
Like no joke.
so it's really funny because so in my first year I did law, so I was pretty busy. But in my second year, I managed to pull all of my classes, like my lectures, into the morning. So I had like this crazy ass timetable in my second year of uni where I would wake up at 7, go to class at 8, finish all my lectures by 1 o'clock, and then I had a job from 3 p.m. until like 1 a.m.
Oh,
Six days a week.
bro.
Yeah, so I was working crazy
Jesus.
hours. I was working like 60 hours a week um, during uni, full time.
Oh my god. That sounds so exhausting.
Yeah, I think I was sleeping like 4 or 5 hours, and I was still going out, like drinking and playing.
Oh
Yeah, but it
man.
was good though.
That's
Yeah, so
funny.
I can definitely say, yep, some crazy work ethic.
Hmm. You know
Yeah.
what's funny? I don't think I've ever told this to anyone in my entire life, but I'm gonna bring it up only because I mentioned it in a video that I'm posting either tomorrow or the next day.
Hmm.
When I was like 13 or 14 or something, was the first time like I found my passion
Okay.
in life. Like I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and that involved me moving to South Korea to play
Oh
StarCraft.
wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
when I was younger, I was really into that. StarCraft, right?
Yeah, of
So I
course.
was really into StarCraft, and I was just like destroying everybody, like locally. Like there was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like just destroying like everyone. I'd play my friends like 1v4, and I was obsessed with like the Korean training of APM, like the actions per minute, and like I was just fully engulfed in the whole world and everything. And I wanted to move to Korea because I heard about this French guy named Elke who moved there, and he kind of like found success.
Mm.
And I had this idea in my mind that was overinflated, where I thought that if I could go there that had the best players and best competition, that I could learn from the best and I could be successul. But in reality, compared to like Korean pro gamers, I'm fucking trash. Like I was like a nobody, like useless. I couldn't even like do anything probably, right? But it's funny because I had this very strange obsession early on with knowing exactly what I wanted to do and just being obsessed. And then I played StarCraft all throughout high school, all throughout like university and college, and it was like this
So you
thing
kept
that
going, right? So you kept going for a long time.
And so that's when I was 14, right? And right now I'm 37. So 23 years later, every day when I eat lunch, I watch StarCraft games on my phone while I eat lunch.
Yeah.
Like that's
Even
how
now.
long it stuck with me. Like original StarCraft, not StarCraft 2, like the original one.
Yeah,
Like
the original
every
one.
day I watch StarCraft games on my phone while I eat my lunch because that was a dream I wish I just kind of pursued, and it was like this like a regret that stuck with me my whole life.
Wow.
And the craziest thing too is a couple years ago we went to South Korea for a vacation.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was like, this is fucking amazing because like I love Korean food. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Like Korean food is
It's
the
blowing
best.
up now. Like it's
Dude,
getting
oh my
huge now, I
gosh.
reckon.
It drives me crazy when people think of Korean food as like Korean barbecue. I'm like, dude, that's not like real like true
it's like
Korean.
level 1.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's like the entry level.
It's like
Oh my,
super entry level. There's so much more to it. But I
yeah.
think
Even just
people like becoming more and more like exposed to it now. Yeah,
oh,
it's
it's
blowing
the
up.
best.
Like it's becoming huge here as well. I think like we were pretty slow to adopt, in my opinion. But it's definitely becoming like way bigger. It's kind of like what Japanese or like Thai or Malaysian food was like 10, 20 years ago. It's becoming like way more popular now.
Yeah, even over here. Over here was like big on Japanese, big on Chinese food.
Mm,
You didn't really hear much about Vietnamese, Thai, or Korean. They were kind of like fringe restaurants you
mm,
could kind of
mm-hmm,
get to in Chinatown or something, or downtown in the city,
mm,
metropolitan
mm.
area. But now it's like, man, whenever I introduce people, or like I like to say like my white friends, right? Because like I'm half a European, right? So I have a wide range of friends. Whenever I introduce like my white friends like Vietnamese food or like Korean food, I'm like, this is like, oh my god, it's so good. I'm like, dude, the flavors are like amazing. It's like the best. You
Yeah,
never had this your
yeah.
entire life. Oh my gosh.
Missing out. Missing out on
Yeah,
like a
man.
whole world of flavors.
Oh, it's the best. And I
Yeah.
remember when we were in Seoul. Was it Seoul? No, not Seoul. It
The
wasn't Seoul. It was
capital?
something close. No, it was before we went to Seoul. I can't remember where we were. It was some city, and it was like very small.
Where?
We went to like an OG Korean fried chicken place, and we
Okay.
ordered like the milky soju. I think it was called like the
Uh,
traditional soju, right?
yeah, makgeolli,
Oh, that's what it's called.
rice wine,
It,
rice wine,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
rice
yeah.
from
That like
yeah,
the
yeah,
traditional one, right? When it comes in like that pot. And
yeah,
then the lady fried the chicken, and she threw the whole thing in, like head,
yeah, like a
neck.
whole yeah,
I was like, holy shit! I
yeah.
was like,
So
what?
it's called like old fashioned chicken or something like that'd be the loose
Oh,
translation.
that's what they call it, old-fashioned
Yeah,
chicken. Oh
like
man,
yeah, like old complete chicken or something like that.
that's so funny. But it's just like I loved it. The whole
Mm,
experience, everything is awesome.
yeah,
It's so good. But it's just funny, like we're just talking about like Korean stuff in Korean culture.
Yeah.
It brings back these weird memories
Yeah.
that I have. That is
Yeah.
very
Oh,
strange.
that's so fascinating. And it's so funny how like you still watch it like when you have lunch, even now.
Yeah, man. My wife's like, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you watching that? Like, how old is that
And
game?"
like and the graphics quality would be so bad as well, like compared to StarCraft 2 or any of these
Yeah.
kind of like newer games. But
Well, they released a remastered version of StarCraft that
right.
has updated graphics. So right now it looks amazing. So it's even better for me
Oh,
now because it's all updated
but it's
and
like the
all
same
the
gameplay and everything, right? Like not like StarCraft
everything.
2.
Yeah. But what they did is they took the old replays from the old professional players, like back in my day, these guys like they're named like Flash, Bisu, Jaedong, like these legends of the StarCraft world. And now you can watch their games like in the remastered client with the better graphics. And I'm
Oh,
just like,
wow.
I don't know. I just love it. It's weird it's like a weird thing that I still enjoy because it's funny because I've quit all video games.
Yeah.
Part of the self development thing, I literally
Mm,
stopped playing Xbox, PlayStation, PC games, and Netflix. Like I don't even watch
yeah.
Netflix anymore. I took all that stuff out of my life. That's how focused I've been on. But I can't kick this StarCraft bug that's been with me for like 25 years. I just can't. I can't get rid of it.
So
It has its
it's
hooks in
so
me.
funny. It's so funny because it's so funny because like I was contemplating whether to say this or not, but I've kind of done the same thing. So a few years ago, I used to be obsessed with playing this one game that I've played since I was like, since uni or even before uni. This game called Dota.
Oh yeah, Defense of the Ancients. Yeah, from
Yeah,
Warcraft 3.
so
I
from
played that
Warcraft
shit
3.
too. It was wicked,
Yeah,
man.
so I used to play that a lot back in the days, and then played Dota 2, played that a lot,
Mm.
and then even until like a few years ago, like I was playing it a lot. But I decided that I really need to cut it out of my life. So what I did, because every time I uninstalled it, I would just reinstall it again. So what I did was I just sold my computer.
Holy shit.
And then, yeah, so I just got rid of my computer completely. So I couldn't even play it even if I wanted to. And then I bought an iPad so I could like still like, browse the web, but then I can't play computer games.
Mm.
And yeah, now I've got like a laptop and it's fine. But yeah, I
Oh,
had to
that's
go pretty
hilarious.
extreme to like get rid of it. But I still watch Dota replays too, and like because
Oh,
there's
do
like
you?
yeah, so because there's like those TI like international tournaments every year, so I
Hmm.
still like catch up with that and just watch like some replays from time to time. But yeah, I
Oh,
just thought it
that's
was
hilarious.
pretty funny like how we both doing kind of similar things.
Yeah, it's weird because I
Like
played
I don't
the
have a
original
desire to
Dota.
play. I don't have a desire to play anymore. Like it's been long enough that I'm over it, but I still like
Mhm.
watching it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. But the videos that I watch or I used to watch back in the day is so bizarre. It would be the camera of the people's hands. So like
Oh,
it's
because
just like
StarCraft is all about like micro, right?
yeah, it's well in StarCraft, the first minute of the game, your left hand is like going everywhere, and you're
Mm,
trying to get up to like 400 clicks per minute, and it's like this very strange exercise that South Korean gamers invented, where it's like this idea of warming up your hands and the speed for when you get into future conflicts 20 minutes down the line. So you're pretending that you're controlling 200 guys in
right.
your army, but you
Yeah.
only have 4, right? So I would watch these videos of these guys' hands and what
Mm,
their warm up routines were and what hotkeys they were doing, and there was like this. My friends were like, "What the hell are you watching? Like, you like
yeah.
this dude's hands? You like his fingernails or something?" Like my friends were just like shitting on me,
Yeah.
right? They were just like,
Mm.
"What are you
But
watching,
you were
dude?"
so like invested in this, right? You were so absorbed in this whole world of.
Yeah, it was like
But
it
you
was
were
like a disease.
yeah, but you were also doing it for self-improvement, right? In the world of StarCraft gaming, you were trying to self-improve
Yeah, it's you know what's funny about that? It's like I noticed early on that I have a very addictive, very compulsive,
personality.
addictive personality. Yes, like when I finally kind of stopped StarCraft, I got into like Dance Dance Revolution, that stupid dancing game, and it was just like all I did. And I got off that, and then I was playing Dota and Han and League of Legends. And like there's always something that, and I couldn't just do it casually for fun. Like my friends wanted to play a
Yeah.
game of Dota, like, oh, go log on, play one game. Okay, yeah, good night, guys. Like they all go to bed. I'm up for 4 more hours, 5 more hours, six. I'm playing until 6 a.m. because I want to win. I want to be the
Yeah.
best. I want, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I just want to improve,
Mm.
and it was like
Yeah.
this sickness that I had where whenever I found something that I loved, I could
Mm.
never do it half-ass. I had to go
Yeah.
150%. It's just something about me. That's just what I'm like. It's very strange.
Do you worry that the self-improvement journey is going to be another one of those things? Or you
Um, I,
reckon?
I've I've thought about it, like,
Because
because
I think you mentioned that your YouTube channel started off, with fitness first, and then something else and something else.
yeah, it started off as fitness, and it kind of like morphed into the more philosophical, mindset type of stuff. And I was thinking, like, is my addictive personality going to get in the way of what I'm doing? But like at the end of the day, like these self-improvement habits, they are improving my life. Whereas if I'm
Mm,
trying to improve my StarCraft skills or Dota skills or Dance
mm,
Revolution moves, like it's not
mm,
producing anything tangible on the output side, right? So at least there's some benefit to my life with this fueling my obsession
yeah.
towards things. So it could change. Maybe I get addicted to something else, and I
Mm.
don't know, and I go down a
Well, if
wrong
it happens,
path.
it
But who
happens,
knows,
right?
right?
Yeah. And if it
Yeah,
happens, it
yeah,
happens.
exactly.
You
So
just try to
it's
make the best of, where you are now and your current situation and the
mhm.
way that you are thinking now,
You know what's funny about that?
living in the moment.
Yeah, and because of the obsession, I've been scared of like cigarettes and like hardcore addictive drugs. I haven't tried anything because I've just been
Wow.
scared of my addictive. Like I've never
Mm,
smoked a cigarette once in my life. Like I've never tried any of
okay.
that hard. Like I'm just because I know what I'm like,
Well,
right? I'm so
that's really
scared.
it's really good that you have the self control to stay away from it. If you
Hmm.
know that you have that kind of nature of that addictiveness, addictive nature, then to stay away from it. It's pretty hard though, because there would have been peer pressure and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. There is all kinds of that, but it's sort of like, again, this idea that I always rely on is cares what other people think. No one cares about what I'm doing. At the end of the day, like in 100 years, I'll be dead. In 100 years after that, no one will even remember my name. So like in the grand scheme of things, I'm just like, you know what? It doesn't really matter what other people's opinions of me are,
Mm.
and if people hate on me or unsubscribe because I have an unfavorable
Mm.
opinion about college, university. Like again, I'm a lot older than a lot of people on YouTube. I'm 37, right? So I have
Yeah,
very thick, weathered skin. I've gone through a lot of
yeah.
experiences and failures in my life. So
Mm.
to be perfectly honest, I'm not afraid of sharing my beliefs and opinions on things, even if people disagree with me or if I receive backlash or hate it. It's something that I've kind of matured and grown
Mm.
older.
Well,
And
the way I think about that is, would you rather be honest and have a few haters, or be dishonest and get fake followers, right?
yes, exactly.
Like
That's a
you got to be honest to yourself first, and then the right people will, follow you and resonate with you. Whereas if you're just making up stuff that you don't even believe, I think people can just tell, or
mhm.
you're just going to get people, liking the message that even you don't believe in.
Yeah, there was a period where I have a lot of friends that are kind of successful YouTubers, and I get like mentorship and advice from them. Even my wife was a successful YouTuber at one time. But there was this period when that guy Matt Diavella was blowing up in
Hmm.
the self-improvement niche, and the
Hmm.
key word minimalism was hot,
Hmm.
and everyone was
It
telling me
was
like,
so hot.
"Man, you gotta jump on this. Like, you gotta jump on the minimalism bandwagon. Like, your channel will blow up. It'll explode. You gotta ride his wave." And I'm like, but I'm not a true minimalist. I have minimalist tendencies and ideas that I do follow, but at heart, I'm sort of more of like an essentialist, like the Greg
Yeah,
McEwen idea, right? And that's what I
yeah.
resonate more with. And I was like, if I make a video talking about how I'm a minimalist, it's going to be disingenuous because it's not
Mm.
authentic. It's not real. That's not who I really am, right? So instead, I made the life uniform video where I specifically titled it Life Uniform, Why I Wear the
Yeah.
Same Clothes Every Day. And I left out the minimalism word. And my friends told me like that's a mistake, right? But like, but it's not, because I'm trying to be authentic and that was true to me. And so it was something that I just decided early on just to kind of speak my truth and just live
Mm.
with the results.
Yeah. No, I can respect that, definitely.
But yeah, so we'll see. Maybe you'll see a minimalism video from me in the future and you'll know I sold out.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even judge if you did. Like, I think it's absolutely fine. It's more about the content. Like, I think it's all right to have like kind of clickbaity titles because, I mean, it's like it's like if you meet someone on the street, you've got a first impression, right? So that's what the title and the thumbnail is for. If there's no point like creating awesome content but then you've got like a really horrible title and thumbnail because no one's going to be able to see it. You want to be able to share it with people. And it's as long as you're not like straight out lying about, what it is you're trying to say, I think it's all right, personally.
Mm,
Like I look
I
out
like
for like
that.
when I'm on YouTube, like I know I personally get drawn to these clickbaity titles, right? I'm just curious as to like what they're talking about. And then as long as I get in there and then the content is good, then it's fine.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I from like a business side, I definitely need to improve when it comes to YouTube, and it's sort of like part of the reason why I guess my growth isn't as good as some people would have liked it.
Mm.
But I'm okay with that. I'm okay
Yeah.
with where I'm at. I get all these comments all the time, like, "Oh, dude, your channel's so underrated. The quality of your videos is so good. How come you get no subscribers? Oh, how come you get no views?" And it sort of hurts a little bit, but at the same time, I'm like, that's not what I'm doing this for.
Yeah.
I feel
But
like
it's
the
it's
views and
reassuring though.
subscribers. Yeah, I feel like it'll come
I think
eventually.
so. Like I think
Yeah.
it's reassuring to know that, people think that way about the stuff that you create.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the same comment over and over. It's like, dude, how come you're freaking getting no views? How come you're
Algorithms.
yeah, the algorithm.
Algorithms. Yeah.
You
It's
know
the
what's
only
crazy?
explanation.
I know. You know what's like wild about that? I talked to this guy from New York, and I've told
Mm.
this story many times in previous episodes, but he was like 20 years old, and he was going through these same struggles that we were sort of talking about, where his parents wanted him to go to NYU and finish college, and he didn't want to do it. He wanted to do filmmaking and YouTube and all this stuff, and he had 1,000 subscribers, and nothing was working out for him. And then his one video blew up, and he blew up to like 100,000 subscribers, and his whole life
Wow.
changed at 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and I talked to him when he had 1,000, and we had these same conversations and problems of not growing and sacrificing yourself for the business or being
Mm.
authentic. And it was one of the best moments on this podcast where I saw someone young who had all these self doubts and insecurities, and YouTube changed his life. And it was amazing because 1 year later, I talked to him on episode 30, and we kind of rekindled where we left off from that conversation over a year ago. And I was like, dude, I'm so excited, for
Mm.
your success and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, man, it's just the algorithm, you can't control it. It does what it wants, and it could pick you at any moment. You just have no idea, right?
I think that really reminds me of this quote that my dad told me many, many years ago. And for some reason, that one really stuck. And it was in Korean, but loosely translated, it was something like, you need to be ready for a chance to come.
Hmm.
Like, so I think how I interpreted was like, I think there are chances, life gives you chances at certain stages in your life, but unless you're ready, they're just gonna like, pass you by. And the reason why your story just now reminded me of that is because we can't control the algorithms, right? Like we don't know which video is going to blow up or whatever, obvious. But you need to be consistently putting out video because it's not going to pick up something that you made last year, right? It's going to be something new. So you have to be constantly putting out weekly or whatever, 2 weekly videos, and then it might just happen. But unless you're doing that, it's never going to happen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, mm,
I like that. It's like it's sort of building or manufacturing your own luck, where if you put yourself out there and you give yourself a chance for when that opportunity does come, you can capitalize on it and grab it and jump on it, right?
absolutely. Yeah. So it's important to keep working on it, even if the results are like, not visible yet, because it's going to come. And like once you start thinking in that way, you're manifesting it, right? How you do, positive affirmations and stuff. You're manifesting it in your mind and you're working towards that goal, even if it doesn't seem clear to you at the moment. It will come. That's what I believe.
I like that. That's awesome. Hey, dude, it's almost we did
Yeah,
almost 2 hours. Well over an hour and a half.
Yeah, wow.
I
You
lost
might have
track
to
of
trim
time.
it down a bit. Yeah, and it's pretty late for you, isn't it? You gotta have to trim it
Yeah,
down.
my daughter is gonna have to go to bed soon, and so I'm gonna get her ready. But yeah, let's wrap up the podcast.
Yeah,
That was an awesome conversation, Q. I
yeah, no,
really
I
really
really
enjoyed that.
enjoyed. Yeah, me too.
That
It's
was
really
awesome,
cool.
dude. But yeah, thanks again for the chat. We should do this again if you're ever
Yeah,
ever
I'm
open to
definitely
it.
keen. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we share very similar thoughts on certain things, and it's just nice to be able to talk.
Oh, I like it. And play StarCraft. If you're watching this, play StarCraft. The game's the best.
No, I don't have a
No.
computer.
And
I
eat
don't have a
kimchi.
computer. Yeah,
Eat some kimchi.
we can do some like Korean mukbang videos while we chat.
I have one on my channel. I have it
Oh, do you?
unlisted. Yeah, it's
Oh, that's
so
funny, man.
cringe, bro. It's so
No, I
cringe.
don't think I could
Oh
ever
my.
do that. Yeah, I
Told you,
mean,
man. I'm vested in the South Korean culture. I'm all for it.
I believe it, 100%.
That's awesome. All right, dude. Well, thanks again. Have a good night or have a good
Yeah,
afternoon where you are.
yeah, afternoon for
And
me. Yeah, have a good evening.
yeah, we'll talk again. Thanks, dude.